Welcome to Twin City Talk. Today we're talking to Victoria and Stephen, the brother-sister duo from Little Richards.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Glad to have you guys here.
And your dad originally started it, right?
Yes, before I was born, right before you were born. I'll let my brother Stephen tell a little more about that.
So my father started Little Richards with another gentleman who has since passed back in 1991. Kind of as a fluke thing. It was a random phone call that somebody was selling a property that had a barbecue restaurant in it before. My father was actually in the restaurant equipment business. So the lady just made a random cold call to Eastern Food Equipment saying, do you know anybody that would want to open a barbecue restaurant? And my dad, another gentleman my dad's of Greek descent, so barbecue's kind of foreign to us, but his name was Gary Sizemore. He was from Davidson County, Lexington. That's what he grew up on. He goes, well, I think I could do that. Let's do it together. So that's kind of how Little Richards got started on a fluke thing in 1991, and we're here, 35 years later, now with 5 locations. So it's been a...
Which one was the original?
So the original location that they opened was on Country Club Road.
Mm-hmm. Went there many times as a kid.
And then about a year or two into that, and they opened the location in Clemens and kind of grew from there.
And then the other locations currently now are the Stratford Road.
So yeah, we have a location on Stratford Road that's kind of, I guess, our newfound flagship store. We opened about 7 years ago. It's kind of a more expanded menu with a full bar and a place that's more of a barbecue experience as opposed to like a traditional mom and pop type of place. And then we have our 4 smaller locations in the surrounding Winston-Salem area in Clemens, Walkertown, Yadkinville, and Mount Airy.
Yeah, you were telling me how they each kind of have their own deal.
Yeah, they really do, and like Stephen was saying, we kind of started off, we're family owned, still family owned. That will never change, but we've started, all of our locations besides the Stratford ones, we started off kind of more mom and pop. And then that's allowed us to see, what works and get to know our customers. And then ultimately the Winston-Salem location on Stratford Road, that was kind of a new endeavor, a new concept. And it, still holds on to our roots, but builds on them. So we have an expanded menu there, the, full service bar, the private dining room. So, as the business has evolved, I think that's something, especially my brother's been instrumental in, is, keeping innovating and, trying new things, but also sticking to our roots, as well. So
it's interesting with barbecue because barbecue's so cultural, right? And we have our particular barbecue culture here in North Carolina, and even more specific in this area in the Triad in Lexington. And, that's will always be our roots, and will be the base of what we serve. But, in the past 35 years, the Winston-Salem community has changed a lot as well. It's become a lot more transient, and everybody's understanding of barbecue is very different. So over the course of the years, we've tried to incorporate that, adding different proteins like brisket, ribs, different sauces that are different sauces that are typical for like different parts of the country, that are more tomato-based or mustard-based or mayonnaise-based. And so it's been a journey. We've learned a lot along the way.
Not that long ago, that would have been sacrilege.
Yeah, right.
Around here, anyway.
Around here,
Yeah.
and trust me, there's still some of the old timers that still probably think that. But our community is changing, especially with the university here being one of the major employers, and the hospital, and bringing a lot of people from all over the country and even the world here. So, we've become a more transient society, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Barbecue's complicated because even like Texas, like that's totally different than our barbecue.
Yeah.
It's completely different. Yeah.
So how does the Greek background go into the barbecue? Like, how was it hard for your dad? Like,
I mean, obviously, starting any new venture is difficult and has its challenges. But my father immigrated here, and make a long story short, basically, had very little opportunity to do anything different. And the Greek culture lends itself, I think, very well to the hospitality industry. It's a very big part of Greek culture and society, serving people and feeding people and cooking. So as people immigrated to the United States, that's basically what they fell into, because that was the only thing they really had a skill set for, coming from villages and stuff like that. So having that background and then coming here and basically working in not every restaurant, but tons of restaurants around here, I think lends itself to at least natural experience. I mean, the restaurant industry, unfortunately, it was like, in our case, is like 20% barbecue, and then the rest of it is like just realities that would happen when any restaurant or any type of business like that. So I think obviously the barbecue might have been a slight learning curve and a lot of trial and error, but the idea of trying to maintain a local establishment with local ties and that family type feel and that mom and pop customer service type feel have always been kind of ingrained in the Greek culture. So it kind of helped lead to success.
My wife's grandfather immigrated here, so I've been inundated with the Greek culture for a long time.
From Greece?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Kozani,
Okay.
Greece. Yeah.
Kozani.
Yeah. So very much so. It's a very, very welcoming, kind, serving sort of community. So so it's interesting to hear how that's worked its way into, because barbecue is not, like you said, it's not necessarily something that you think about when it comes
it's
to.
interesting, like us talking about it, not going on a tangent about Greek stuff, but there's so many actually words in the Greek language that actually kind of describe what we're talking about, and there's no really direct translations for that in English. And I think that kind of embodies how important that idea of hospitality and welcoming people is important to the culture itself, because it's funny, every time you read somebody trying to translate particular words, they're like, yeah, but that's not exactly what it is. It's a little bit of this too, and it's a little bit of that. So, being Greek and the Greek community here has been very integral in our restaurant's success as well.
Yeah, I'd say the other part culturally too, just the work ethic piece. I mean, like Stephen mentioned, our dad and his family immigrated here. They didn't have much, so that type of work ethic, it takes that kind of grit to make a business successful, and that's something that's kind of that's in our blood. And my dad then ultimately, we grew up as the restaurant kids, and now here we are too. And I think, with me having one on the way,
I was about to say, getting ready to have a restaurant kid.
It really makes me think a lot about how I want to raise my children. And maybe when I was younger, I didn't understand why, my dad had us work so much, but I'm so grateful for it. And just the values that is instilled in us. And I definitely want, my child to be working at a young age in the restaurant too. And I think that's another part that it took to make, the business successful. We get it all the time. They're like, Greeks, barbecue, but I think you guys know about Winston too. We have a lot of Greek people here. So if every Greek person owned a Greek restaurant, everyone would be Greek food all the time.
Right. So many restaurants are Greek owned, and not many of them, and while they have some Greek flair,
yes,
they are not necessarily Greek restaurants. Yeah. So, I have a recent friend. Her name is Katerina Sagala, and she is actually from Greece, and she's living here. She's doing a thing called Souvlaki Girl.
Okay.
That's kind of stand-up, but not stand-up stuff. But she's actually wanting to do it in Greek-owned restaurants because
interesting.
That's her
neat
stuff. So I told her I have some
maybe
people
put us
that I know.
in touch.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, slight pivot on the barbecue piece. I don't know a whole lot about barbecue and the history of it. I know obviously the whole Lexington barbecue bit because I grew up here. But what would you guys say that is not just unique about yours necessarily, but give me a little history on this on barbecue as you know it or as you understand it, if you've got anything in that space to share.
So, I think I mentioned some of the things kind of before, but barbecue is definitely cultural and definitely regional. If we start here in Lexington, granted I'm not from here or from Lexington, but from my understanding, it was hickory smoked and pit hickory smoked barbecue, I guess is the right way I should say, and so that's even how we started as well. barbecue's become more modernized and advanced over the years. And I think even if you kind of scroll through Instagram and you see barbecue things, whatever, you'll see all these like fancy, intricate smokers and things people make out of oil drums with different types of wood and this and that. And what's kind of translated in our business over time is like taking the idea of still hickory smoking, but using the more modern techniques that are available for better food quality. Also, to make sure you don't really burn down the place, because leaving an open fire for 16 hours straight isn't necessarily the. Let's say the fire department doesn't really like that, nor do insurance companies. So. So like now here at Little Richard's, we have built-in smokers in the back of our restaurants that actually have a firebox where we still use hickory wood that's local to the area. It's kind of all digitalized in some ways because it has, without seeing it, it's kind of hard to explain, but basically there's the firebox in the back, and it has temperature sensors inside and opens and closes a valve to add smoke to the meat that's cooking throughout the whole cooking process, as opposed to like whenever you cooked on a pit, it just, you got a lot of smoke in the beginning and then you got a lot of burn once this, but so it's, I think it's helped like make a more consistent, more tastefully smoky product. So I think those are the things that are kind of shifting, if I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. Very much so. I didn't know any of that.
So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm practically trained, not, by any not classically trained. And, I'm from, like Victoria said before, worked in the restaurant, I guess, most of my life at this point. So, I kind of learned, like, just starting as a dishwasher and kind of making my way up there, kind of worked every station at the restaurant. So my education has come more that way. And then as I grew into this role, kind of experimenting on our own and whatever. So I don't really have the culinary training to answer to that question to you on a culinary level, but I would say on a practical standpoint, that's kind of where we're at.
Well, one thing that I really like about you guys is, yes, we are in Lexington country, and, you have some offerings from other barbecue regions. If that's not your focus, then that's fine. But I just love that you offer the gamut of choices and not just, hey, this is what we have.
But it's interesting, like if you look at all of our locations too, the ones closer to Lexington or some of the smaller ones, they are still a lot more barbecue dominant, Lexington style barbecue. But like our store in Winston-Salem here, what we sell, what actually sells, is very diverse, and it kind of speaks to itself about how it's just a different group that's coming into this area in Winston-Salem. There's many days where we sell just as much brisket as we do pork, and that you would have never thought that a few years ago.
So and it was even interesting. I mean, I still remember like growing up working in the restaurant. It was just barbecue sandwiches all day, pork barbecue sandwiches all day long. And it's even I still worked on the floor too, and it is interesting, like he's saying, to see what people order and how it's evolved.
So if you take the fatigue factor out, because growing up in it, I'm sure you've had more than your fair share of the barbecue. Do you have a personal preference on the style of barbecue?
Not particularly. I will say though, because I guess I'm from here, I still to this day, even though I work in the barbecue industry, when I think of barbecue, if I think of that word itself, I think of Lexington style pork.
Yeah, vinegar-based pork, exactly.
It's still, maybe it's just because it's ingrained in our heads because we grew up
here. It absolutely is, because that's all I think about.
But I mean, now is that what I go to and eat most of the time? Probably not at this point, but it's still like when I think, I want barbecue today, it's 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a classic barbecue sandwich with the red slaw that's from here and with local Texas Pete on it. And I will sit there and eat this till.
The red slaw is the other thing, the vinegar-based barbecue slaw, because if you go east of Raleigh, you won't find that. It'll be only the white, creamy slaw. So yeah, it's neat. And we'll always have that on our menu. I mean, that's how we started. So.
Yeah. It took me a while to get used to the red slaw, but I do like it now. Actually, I like it over to the side and not necessarily on the sandwich. But yeah, I'm a fan of Lexington area restaurants doing Eastern style barbecue more than I am Eastern style barbecue places doing Eastern style barbecue.
Fair enough.
I was out almost at the coast, and there was like in some place that's like this famous. It was on the Drew Barrymore show and all this other stuff, and we stopped there, and I'm like, this is kind of gross. But whenever places here do Eastern style, I like it.
Well, I mean, I think probably part of that is because Lexington style technically is kind of a mix between the East and the West.
Yeah,
so
just
it's not
change of
as tangy or not as vinegary as like what you have on. I would tell you the same thing. I don't like it either.
Yeah.
That complete vinegar thing, but the Lexington idea is kind of vinegar and ketchup based, so it still has that tangy flavor of vinegar, but also has the sweetness of ketchup. Yeah. If that makes any sense.
And I love vinegar. I mean,
I do too. I understand.
I go crazy with vinegar, but it just wasn't.
It's
great.
not what we're used to.
Yeah, right.
It's not what we're used to.
So, what's your thoughts on the South Carolina kind?
Well, so that mustard-based sauce we have, we call it Carolina Gold. We've got it at the restaurant.
I actually have learned. I like the sauce. Not particularly a fan of it mixed in with pork. People order it all the time because that's what they're used to. Yeah. I think it lends itself a lot better to chicken items and stuff like that. Personally, but obviously, like we said from the very beginning, barbecue is very cultural, and everybody has very strong opinions about what it should be. So, I think I don't know if we're all from this area, but I think most of us are probably. I think we're all kind of saying the same thing.
I'm the only one that's not from here, but I've been here for 40 years. So
okay, well, you're from here.
I'm from here.
So.
Well, speaking of that, being from here, what do you guys love about Winston?
Oh, gosh. Well, both of us were born and raised here. And I mean, for me, it's definitely the community. That's such a big, important part of our lives. I think that kind of leans probably into our cultural upbringing as well. But, our supporting local, I think, is something that's really important in this community, and it's something that we're so grateful for. That's been the roof over our heads. So I think, just the community feel of Winston, how everyone is very supportive, is probably one of my favorite things. I mean, we have, a community within our family business. Just, we've had employees there that have been there since we were kids. We're really involved in our Greek community, which is a big part of the greater Winston community. So I just keep going back to that word. That's probably one of my favorite things. And again, now that I'm building my own family and thinking about, raising my own child, community is so important to me. And I think Winston's a great place to grow up and eat. So yeah.
I would say something that I have noticed about Winston is that the people that are from here have very strong ties to Winston itself, and oftentimes, and I think Victoria and I can both say this. We didn't go to school here at Wake Forest or anything. We left, but there's people that live here have a natural pull to come back, and now being in the business community more and running into people, I run into like countless people from high school, and the story's very similar. That like, hey, we wanted to get out of here because we wanted to go to this big thing or whatever, but then we realized how we have something actually special here, and so you see a lot of people coming back and trying to make their lives here and raising families here, and it really is a place that has everything you need, but it's not with the hustle and bustle and the stresses of sitting in an hour in traffic like in Charlotte these days or whatever. So I think that plays a big part, but I find it interesting that a locality like Winston has such a pull to bring people back.
It really does.
It has its own tractor beam.
Yeah.
It does. I've lived all over, and there's just no place like Winston. And it's all those things you're talking about. It is this community with all these things you could do, but you want to raise your family here, and there's just this draw to come back. I'm not quite sure I could ever put my finger on it specifically, but there's just something about Winston that makes you want to be here.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting because like you think, oh, and it's a weird thing that Winston, like you're always like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do here, what the opportunity is, but yet somehow we find it. It is like we have this internal pull to still kind of come back to the roots. So,
how can people find out about your restaurant?
Well, multiple ways. Twin City Talk. And of course, we're all, up to speed on our online, social, Facebook, Instagram. We're pretty active there. We're also, something that we've been working within the past couple of years is just getting more ingrained in the community. So we've built a lot of different partnerships from, Wake Forest to some local public schools, the hospitals, different businesses. So, and I think that goes back to, yes, of course we're online, we're on social and everything, but just those personal human relationships, are really important to, telling people about us as well. Because a lot of people, I meet so many people that are like, oh, I didn't realize, I know it was family owned. I didn't realize it's so cool. It's like second generation running it now. And I think all that's important to kind of our story as well.
That's cool.
So,
well, thank you guys for joining us today and talking with us.
Thank you. We
enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for being here.
Yes.
Of course.
This is Twin City Talk. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. The views and opinions portrayed by guests on this podcast are not necessarily those of the distributors and hosting companies. And if you love this podcast, that's great, but don't think about stealing it. Reach out to us and talk about the content because it is copyrighted.